Hi, I'm Julie. Welcome back to the Hobby Maker tutorial channel. Today I am going to show you how to make a gatefold card. So today I'm going to show you how to make a gatefold card. So I'm going to start with a 12 by 12 piece of cardstock and I'm going to trim this down. So what I want to do, I'm going to do a 5-inch square gatefold card. So I'm going to start by trimming it at 5 inches. And then I'm going to rotate my cardstock and I'm going to trim it at 10 inches. And then what I want to do is I'm just going to flip it over so I've got the inside of what my card blank is going to be facing up, because I'm going to put some score lines into this to create the gatefold. So what you want to do is come in 2.5 inches from your 10 and do the same, so come in 2.5 inches from the start of your cardstock too. I'm just going to pop that there. And you can see then that gives us that 5-inch square base at the back. So then what we need to do then to create the actual gates of our gatefold is we just score down that line there and then we flip it over and we butt it up so that the gatefold meets, and then we're just going to score down on that side too, and then that creates our gatefold. So the next thing I need to do then, I'm just going to burnish that down so it sits flat. We need to create some panels to decorate up our card. So what I'm going to do is cut some panels for each of the sides of the fold, and then I'm also going to cut a panel for the inside, because obviously once it stands up you're going to see both sides of that. So I'm going to bring in some coordinating paper. So I want a slight border around so I can still see the pink of my card. So what I'm going to do for the centre panel, I'm going to come in 1/2 inch so that I've got a big, no I'm not, I'm going to come in 1/4 inch. So I'm going to cut it at 5 3/4, no 4 3/4, sorry, by 4 3/4. And then what I'm going to do with the same paper, I'm going to cut 2 panels for the front. So I'm going to do these 4 3/4. So I'm going to cut 2 panels. I'm going to cut them at 4 3/4 inches by 2 1/4. And hopefully I should have enough this time. Let me just pop that down. Yeah, so I've got 2 panels there that are 2 1/4. So then that creates our 3 sheets of paper that are going to go into our card. So stick these down. So I'm going to use some glue just to pop these into place. Again, you could use your double-sided tape, whatever your preference is, your tape runner, whatever you prefer to adhesive to use, you can use at this point. So I'm going to pop this piece into the back to start with, and I'm just going to position that in place, making sure that I've got an edge all the way around that. And then I'm going to do the same process on the front panels. So I'm going to just pop some glue down. And you could do an extra layer. You could do, if you wanted to do this, you could put another layer on top, so you could do some mats and layers on these front panels if you wanted to add a little bit more interest. It's entirely up to you. If you were going to add some ribbon and a bow, what I would do before you actually stick this panel down, I'd attach your ribbon now, bring it up and over so that the ends of your ribbon are underneath, because again, adding some ribbon or twine to something also adds a little bit of interest. I'm just going to stick that down. And then you'll see then, if I just bring our fold into place, just burnish that all down now with your bone folder, just so it's all in place. So there we've got mats and layers down onto our gatefold. So I'm just going to take my trimmer out of the way now. So then what you want to do then, decide where you're going to put your topper at this point. So I've just cut myself, which we will be covering in some later tutorials, we'll be covering die cutting, but I have just cut myself a scallop circle and a plain circle out of some nesting dies. So I can either attach it to the front of my card, and just remember at this point you would only adhere the actual circle to heart this side, because you don't want to stick your card together. So you just stick your circles to that side. Or if you open it up, you could have your topper in the inside of your card so that when you open up, you reveal it. So again, entirely up to you. There's two ways of doing it. I actually think I am going to pop mine on the inside. So what I would do with this, and a bit of advice, I would always stick this flat, because obviously if you put some foam pads onto this, when you go to shut it, it isn't going to shut flat to go into your envelope. It's going to be slightly upwards because you've raised your topper up. So if you are going onto the inside, always make sure that you're going to be adhering this down flat to your backing paper. So I'm just going to bring my glue in again into position. And then I'm going to do the same with my plain white circle. Just using a wet glue, as I've said in previous tutorial videos, it just allows you to be able to have a little bit of flexibility when you pop one layer down onto another, because sometimes, especially with this, you want to make sure that you've sort of like got quite an even border. So you can see I'm slightly moving it with my fingers before I know that I'm happy with the placement. Then I can sort of rub down over the top and know that it's stuck in place. I've then got a little die cut topper, which I'm going to pop into the centre of my nesting dies. So again, I'm just going to put a bit of glue onto the back of this and just pop that down in place. And then what I'm going to do, I've got a sentiment here, and I've also got 2 strips of paper that are just left over. They're just the 2 little strips of paper that I've had from a previous piece that I've just decided that I'm just going to do some little fishtail banners with. So if I then go to close the front of my card, I think my sentiment I'm going to place across the middle, almost like as if it's going to be almost like a closure. So I'm going to actually put some foam pads on this half just to raise it up. I just then pop that in the centre there. You'll see that sort of closed that too. And then my border strips, I'm just going to cut a little dovetail in. So I'm just going to use my scissors just to snip halfway, and then I'm going to come from each corner and just cut to that centre point, and you'll see that creates that little dovetail, which I quite like because I just think it adds a little bit more interest onto that. So I'm going to do these at 2 different heights. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to repeat the process on this other one, and this is just a nice way also of using up any sort of like scrap bits that you've got left. So I'm just going to pop myself some glue. I'm going to stick that down where I want it to be. And because I've only sort of put that bit of adhesive where I'm actually sticking it to the card, if I turn over then and just snip that off, I've then got that piece to use if I want to create something like this again. So then with this one, I think I'm going to go a little bit lower and have them at 2 different heights. So again, I'm just going to pop my glue onto the bottom where I know it's going to be sticking to the card, and then I'm just going to slide that down into place, and then I'm just going to snip that off. And then I kind of think when you're doing layouts of cards, if you've got something sort of in a corner, it's always nice to balance it out to have something in this corner. So I'm just going to bring in some little gems. Again, you could use buttons, whatever you've got really embellishment wise, whatever you like to use, you can. So I've got different sizes on here, so I think to add a little bit of interest, I'm going to start with my largest in the corner, then I'm going to go to my mid-size one, and I'm going to just pop that one next to it, leaving a little bit of a gap. And then I've got a smaller one that I'm then going to just repeat the process just to create 3. I also like things in 3s. I think things like gems, pearls, buttons, it's always nice to have 3 of something. And that just shows you how easy it is to create a gatefold card.